I get that right?
That's correct. Osyron, yeah.
All right. So Reed, the singer. Am I getting
Yep.
my arm around this? So this is your band. How you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. How about yourself?
I take myself very seriously on Mondays, or something to that effect. Anyway,
Same here.
um,
I'm sure a lot of people. Yeah.
yeah. Well, everybody says, "How are you?" It's one of the most meaningless questions. You might as well have some fun with it. So yeah. So thanks for doing this, man. Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. So congrats on being nominated.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. We've been very fortunate over the last couple of weeks to be nominated for a few things here and there, and it's always nice to be recognized in your industry and your field, no matter what it is and for whatever it is. So it's nice.
Hard work pays off, man. It comes at so like this podcast got nominated for an award like eons ago, and I remember when it first kind of hit me. It's like, how did this happen? Was it kind of like one of those surreal this is cool? How did I get this? And now what do I do kind of thing? Or it's just like, oh, this is cool. Let's just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, you mean in regards to the nomination kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah, the nominations.
I think as a collective, like as a band, if you were to view it as any kind of collection of people, big or small, I think as a band, it's really nice to see that we're being noticed. I mean, regardless of any outcome, regardless of, obviously other people that get nominated along with you are, held into a higher regard as well, which is nice, and it's great to see us along with peers like that. From a personal standpoint, me personally speaking, not on behalf of the band, awards for me and these kind of things, they're not the be all end all. I think that as an artist and as people that are, artistic and have creative vision and stuff, I think that, there is no necessarily, right or wrong way to go about it. I think every artist is different and unique. So.
For me, to quantify, because there's always a little bit. There was for me personally a little bit of an imposter syndrome thing, because it's like you did nothing different. You just woke up one day and suddenly you get noticed, which is always a cool thing. But the thing is, sometimes with that is people we understand failure because we have all the things we did, even as kids, trying to ride the bicycle, learning to swim. We all know what it's like to fall on our butt. But when we're succeeding, it kind of hits you a little differently, because okay, how do I maintain that success, or how do I keep getting people notice me? It's not maybe necessarily the reason why you're doing this, but it's also just from a business standpoint. The more people listen to you, the more you can keep doing that. So there's kind of a little bit of that going on in your head, and it just so for me, what it came down to was I realized, and ultimately for me it was this. I'm doing this for me, but I'm also doing this for the people that really do appreciate my work. And anything else I get is nice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. No, yeah. I can see that for sure.
Yeah. So, wait, you said multiple awards. So what else have you been nominated for in the last couple of weeks?
We got nominated for YYC Music Award, and we got nominated for, the name escapes me, and I apologize. No disrespect to that institution at all.
No.
But there's a long, it was for all of Western Canada, so it wasn't specific just to Calgary YYC. It was Western Canadian category, and the name escapes me, so I apologize about that. But anyway, that was within the last couple of weeks as well.
So yeah, so you've done. So you guys are doing well. That's really cool. So, congrats first and foremost. I guess second, let's do some of the basic origin stories here. So, how long have you guys been a band now?
Well, that's kind of a interesting question, because in one way or another, Bobby and Krzysztof have been, who are the two guitarists in the band, have been a band, or I guess formed the band and kept the band going in one way or another for about 18 years. So they've been going consistently, never given up, through different members, highs and lows. They moved from Ontario to Alberta. They just kept it going, and then they renamed themselves Osyron. And then myself and Tyler, who's the bassist and also does a lot of mixing and engineering for the band, we joined about 6 years ago now, give or take. And then Cody, the drummer, joined about 3 or 4 years ago. So I can't quite remember, but it was something like that.
So basically, in one sense, it's an old band, but in another sense, it's a brand. It's still, but it's a brand new band in a lot of ways. It's a
Yeah,
group of
yeah,
guys.
I word it that way. Like I think that this incarnation, like this band as it is right now, is only about 6 years old. And I think that if you were to look at it that way, like from the music we've released, and are releasing coming up here, in the next few months, I'd say that that's like more or less 6 years. That's kind of like where we see it. But the actual foundation of the band, the actual two original members, it was about 18 years ago back in Sarnia, Ontario.
Oh wow! See, I'm from London. I grew up in London, Ontario.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm in Calgary now. So, but I grew up in London, Ontario. So no, that's kudos. They came literally relatively obscure place, and hey, it takes a lot of guts to believe in something and see something that nobody else sees, or and basically win or find the right people that have a similar vision to them, which is that's a huge that's hard. I think probably the hardest thing about putting any kind of band together is finding great people that have a similar vision to you, whatever that vision is.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you're going to be in a collective, especially with art, I mean, if it's business, if it's regardless of what medium or field it is, or whatever you're doing, if you're in a collective and it's not yourself, and you're with a team, and you're with multiple people, and then those people are working with other people, if it's a big endeavor that way, there has to be a collective vision and there has to be direction, and that's I think where a lot of people find success is when everyone kind of agrees, regardless of if it's the first choice of everyone or not, but everyone goes all in and fights to see that come to fruition. So I think that's kind of a true testament of what it is to be in a band and to find success in a band.
Yeah, I mean, these are people you're going to be working with together on a regular basis, and everybody's got to be kind of like comfortable with what they're doing. Because if they're not comfortable, they're not going to buy into whatever it is you guys are going for. So that's really hard to find. And so to your bandmates that went for 18 years, kudos to them. So I'm going to ask this question then. So what changed? Was it just in the sense that right people came at the right place at the right time kind of thing, or was it maybe an evolution of both of them, or was it a little bit of like, or even you with you, like, is this your first band? Was this like your first endeavor with this, and what attracted you to these guys? I'm sorry, it's a big
Um,
long question, but
no, that's fair. So I guess the first part, do you mean what changed in regards to why they came out here and why they
no,
kind of
what I
went?
mean, like, okay, so 6 years ago, they've been plugging along, plugging along, plugging along, plugging along, and they should have got a bit of a following that way. But it seems like you guys have turned a quarter in the last few years. 6 years is usually about 3 albums, right?
Mhm.
And then now that might be, now you might be less, maybe it's two, maybe it's a little more, it could be four, but I'm saying three is a nice even curve there, right? So, um, so 3 albums is not very many, right? And considering the history, right, that's a huge, that's either a paradigm shift in terms of a little bit of how you guys approach things, right, as a collective. But it's also might even just be like just on a personal level with my own stuff. You have to how you see things as an artist evolves the longer you do this too. You realize like you cut trim the fat a little bit about like the pretensions of what an artist is, right? Whether it's music or writing or whatever it is, you're telling a story out on this
Mhm.
on the stage, and and somewhere along the way you kind of find yourself telling like stories that mean the most to you. That's usually what ends up happening. So was it that evolution for them and combining it with you guys with your own other journeys, or also was it just the right people at the right place at the right time, or was it a little bit of both?
Well, I think I'll try and answer it the best I can, but I think that
Yeah.
for this band in particular, I feel like there was a little bit of you can call it destiny, you can call it fate, because like I believe, and you make that for yourself. I don't firmly believe that we're all it's all laid out in front of us before we even step foot on the earth. But I do think that the fact that they came all the way from Ontario, there is a little bit of an age difference by a few years. So it's not like we necessarily would have met up in the same scene at the same time if we grew up together. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things that kind of came into play. And then I also think it's just, they were looking for a certain singer and a certain sound, and I fit that. And I was looking for a certain band, like a metal band that fit essentially, especially where Osyron was 6 years ago, what I was looking for. I think that we've evolved since then. I think we're a lot different. I think we've kind of grown our sound and matured that way. But I think at that time it was a perfect mixture that way. So I think it was a perfect happy accident that things worked out, because they came from a completely different part of the country, and timing worked out. It just how it fell into place.
It's amazing what happens when you meet the right people at the right time. It's like sometimes there is a little bit of that. I was interviewing an author named DJ Butler, and one thing to talk about is there's a bit of a roulette wheel, right? When sometimes these opportunities come about, but I also think there's a little bit also the fact that you're ready for those opportunities too. Because sometimes you're given something when you're younger, you're just not ready for it, right? It's a cool moment, but it's just like you're not ready for it for whatever reason, and when you're older and wiser and stuff like that, it's like when you get those opportunities, like okay, now I know what to do with it, right? So, and then I think that comes with life experience for sure. But it is very interesting to me sometimes how I do believe in like destiny, although not necessarily slayed out. I do think there are possibilities. What we dream we can make real. I do truly do believe that. But I also think we have to work at that, and we have to learn whatever lessons we need to learn to get into those positions. And that's basically what I've learned in this life. And all of which to say as I mutter on here, um, it just seems like for as far as that goes, it's amazing. Like you just what happens, you just met that right people at the right time, and suddenly you got something. I mean, it didn't happen overnight, but you built something really cool. So
Yeah,
congrats.
no, for sure. And we're still at it, right? I think that's part of you know, part of making things work and finding success, and whatever you deem success in your field, and what you're trying to pursue. But sticking it out, and there's been a lot of reasons and a lot of moments to just kind of fold the cards and stuff like that, because especially with the pandemic, and especially with highs and lows of being in a band, multiple personalities, creative visions and stuff. There's always going to be those roadblocks, but if you stick it out, you keep true to the course and stuff, it eventually, hopefully it pays off, and we have a really strong belief in and where we're going with our new album that's going to be coming out, and the amount of effort and some of the cool things that we have in store on it. I think that there's a lot of great things on the horizon for us, and great things ahead. So we're excited. We're excited for what's coming.
You should be. I mean, it sounds like you're really amped up about the new album, and it. How long have you been working on it?
Well, I guess you could say 2.5 years if you want to count COVID in there. But I mean, during COVID, we released Foundations, which was our EP that was originally going to be coming out in 2020, but due to the pandemic, it was all kind of more of a online release strictly. There was no shows, there was no we had to kind of learn different ways to promote, and strictly just go online. And then to keep ourselves busy, have something to release in the meantime while we were working on our upcoming record. We remixed and remastered. Well, I should say Tyler, the bassist, remixed, remastered Kingsbane, which was our record that came out about, now 6 years ago, I guess. And then we re-recorded a couple of tracks off that album, and revised them and reimagined them, and made them kind of how we would today, like kind of same song, same style, but we with our drummer Cody, and how we would perform and write today, we kind of just made them more what Osyron is now. So that was really fun. That was really kind of challenging, interesting thing. And now we're on to our next album, and this is hopefully going to be opening some doors for us, and carving a new path.
Yeah, I want to talk about the remixing, remastering for a second there because okay, it's just me as a writer. Some of the things I've done over the like years ago. I'm not sure I could rewrite my novels. or rewrite the stories I've done in the past because I'm not that guy anymore, right? You guys remastering, that must have been a heck of a challenge because they, even though, yeah, you try and go for what your vision is today, right? They're still the guys that made that sound back in the day. I mean, you had to keep their voice because their voice was the most passionate doing it, right? Right. So I mean, you can't replace that. So was that the biggest challenge with that, or was it more? Because I don't feel it was just like a fine tuning. I feel like you had to almost reimagine a few of these songs a little bit as well.
Yeah. I mean, like, when you're remixing, remastering the original album, you're essentially just kind of bringing more to life what was already laid down 6 years ago. I mean, I was in my early 20s when I did the vocals for that personally. I can't speak to the other guys. I mean, Cody wasn't even in the band. Cody,
Yeah,
we had a,
that,
we
that,
had a
that
different drummer. We had a different drummer at that time. So it was different. But I can tell you, I did not want to touch personally. I did not want to touch that album just because I didn't want to listen back to 21-year-old Reed. I had grown as a vocalist and as an artist, and I wanted to look forward. But after talking with our team and with the band and stuff, we thought it was a good thing to do to kind of give something to our fan base and to kind of give us something to release and to kind of push forward with. And then also redoing and kind of re-envisioning and restructuring 3 tracks to more of how we are today gave us kind of that fun opportunity where I will show you how I sing today on these songs, how I would have sang on these songs if I had to redo it all again, and having Cody put his stamp on it. And Cody did some incredible stuff with the percussion and with the drums that completely changed the sound and elevated the songs to a new level. So there was a lot of things that went into it. But I'm the same way. I mean, we never changed. We didn't change the words. We didn't change. The songs are still there, like for the 3 pre-recorded ones. But the original record's still there, front to back. It's just a little bit more brought to life because we had a second chance to go and remix it and remaster it and kind of let it breathe a little bit more and showcase some things that were maybe buried a little bit in the original mix. So it was looking back now, obviously at the time it was something that we were kind of iffy about doing, but looking back, it was a great experience and something that we actually probably learned a lot from. So it was good.
I would imagine so because again, it's almost like a comparison contrast what I did then versus what I did now, and what they did maybe that was better, and what you do now that's like better. It's easy to see where you've grown, but sometimes it's interesting what you've lost. So let's go to the present. So I was right then. It's about 3 albums in 6 years then, right? So that's about an accurate description. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Kingsbane Foundations, which was an EP, but more, long enough to be maybe a short album. And then we remastered Kingsbane, and now we're about to be starting to get going on our new album here. So I guess you could say, yeah, 3 albums more or less.
yeah. So what's the title of your third album? Can you say that?
I cannot.
Gotcha.
But it's I will say that the record, I think, from all of us is a very, very, very um, vulnerable representation of how we felt over the last 2.5 years as artists. A lot of artists, maybe you can relate to it yourself, but a lot of people in our industry and stuff, they really were kind of hand tied and had nothing to do and couldn't do what they wanted to do to their full potential because of the circumstances we were living under. So we had a lot of frustration, a lot of emotion, a lot of things happened in our personal lives. It's 2 years, 2.5 years, like a lot happens, and it was a different world. So I can tell you from a musical perspective and a lyrical perspective, it's probably our most ambitious, vulnerable, true representation of who we are as musicians. And I think that we got a lot smarter and a lot more creative with how we wrote our songs and what we chose to do and how we chose to go about it. And we have some cool surprises for people too. Like we have some really cool things that we're excited to announce that I think are going to be, really exciting for people to hear. So
that sounds cool. Okay, so without talking about the songs in great detail, we're going to talk about the 2 years because I think everybody had their own like on a personal level. this was my second apocalypse. My first one was much more personal, but this one was obviously like, you know, beyond everybody's control. And so I looked at it maybe a little differently than most people because I've already had my own little brush with death. But I think the hardest thing about something like what we just went through for the last 2.5 years is the feeling of how little in control you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because one day, so I was in Vancouver when the pandemic was happening, where everything was starting to shut down. And I gotta say, like the first 2 weeks of it were to me the worst because I was still working a day job, and I would go to work and I would be unsure what would actually. It was like Vancouver was evaporating in front of me the whole way because every time I'd go out, like I don't know if you've been to Vancouver, but if you have, you go downtown Vancouver. All the characters, like the homeless people down the street, the characters that are there, the people that are hustling and bustling, doing their things there. Like Vancouver downtown is a very lively place. I watched it go silent, like day by day by day. I'd be, and it would take me longer to get to work, in spite because it was just everything was kind of there was a degree of chaos and like silence, and it was really so me just going out and doing stuff. I'd be like, what's going to happen next? Because you just didn't know, and you know, um, the personal thing for me was when would I see my family again? And that's a very real human thing because everybody was scared. I'm scattered from my family now. I imagine I don't know where you're like with your family, if you're close or not. If you're close, cool. I'm sure you saw them throughout, but even so, there was a bit like there was a definitely feeling that this was bigger than all of us. There was definitely a feeling of um, what's going to happen next. How will this go? How will this pass? Right? And that's a very humbling thing to go through.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. What was it like for you? Like, like, was it that, or was there other things that really like bothered you?
From a personal perspective,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think I was forced to face myself for the first time. I mean, I've been so busy with music over the last however many years of my life, probably since I graduated high school. So I mean, up until now, I guess it'd be 9 years, but so it's up until then, like 7 years. And I've dedicated myself to music, and then I wasn't able to do it anymore, or not to the same extent, not to the same way. And I love to perform. I love to be in front of people. I love to communicate that way and share moments with people, and also share my music and my messages. So that was interesting, having to kind of look back within myself and see what I could either do better with my relationships, with myself. I went through a good couple months of heavy drinking, and probably wasn't good for me. But Cody, our drummer, has probably a lot more recollection of the 3, 4 in the morning phone calls that I gave him. Uh, asking him questions about, because I was recording a bunch of demos and stuff at my house, to kind of get ideas off my chest, my thoughts, and kind of document what I was going through. And there was a lot of phone calls, which started off as just a question about, hey, because he's an engineer as well.
Yep.
Everyone in the band, minus myself, is super inclined with audio engineering, and to various degrees and various extents. But anyway, Cody has his own studio, and I called him and I said, like, hey, dude, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Probably because I was hammered, but also because I really don't know what I'm doing. And I'd ask him a question, and then I think 2 hours later, we'd finish our phone call, and I didn't realize that we'd be just chatting, and it would have been about everything. Could have been about music, could have been about life, could have been. And so there was like little stories like that, little things like that for me that I take away from. And I think at the end of the day, I came out of it a lot stronger. I learned a little bit more about myself, and I'm not as afraid anymore to look into myself, and when there is downtime, when there is quiet, because I really don't like to have downtime. I am a very busy individual. I'm consistently working my ass off. in multiple aspects of my life and my music and stuff. And so I think I came out of it a lot stronger just because I was almost forced to, as I'm sure a lot of us were, So it was it's been a journey.
In the darkness, there's only you, and you can't run. When it gets to that point, you cannot run as much as you want to. I mean, you took a 2-month sabbatical during that, but I think a lot of people wouldn't blame you for that during that time for that.
No, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
No, I'm just asking because because when you go through like the other thing about the music industry too is you didn't perform. A lot of bands went through a very, very, very shitty time for the you had a little life in 2021, but let's be honest, it was kind of start stop. 2022 has been hopefully better for you guys in terms of performances and stuff like that. I don't foresee us doing another lockdown at this point in the ball game. We would be the only country left to do it at this point. But I mean, I don't think I think by and large it's over. That in that regard, there's other things that kind of make me go, well, we'll see how that plays out. But the by and large thing, I think we're through the fingers crossed, like the lockdown phase of this and figuring out what the world is going to look like going forward. So, but it must so. How did you was it just new material, or did you guys do try anything like Twitch or live concerts or anything like that way, or
to stay busy and to keep us informed?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it was caught up in writing the new music, but also getting Kingsbane remixed, remastered, going through a promotional going through a campaign, like a promo campaign, and getting the music out there. And we filmed a music video for our reimagined version of our song Viper Queen. We went through, we had some stuff we were doing. It wasn't like we weren't necessarily sitting on our asses. We did a couple of videos here and there. Try to keep up with our social media, being in contact with fans and with people. But it was definitely a weird up and down time. There was times where we were super busy, super gung ho, and had a lot going on, and then there'd be times where we'd be kind of in limbo. But like I said, kind of earlier on today, we pushed through. As a band, you got to push through. You got to make it happen. So it was good.
Did you guys get closer? And it's the last thing we'll talk about. And we'll talk about some other fun stuff before we wrap up. But did you guys get closer as a result of this experience?
I think so. I mean, for instance, just one example that just pops in my head, other than drunk calling Cody every single night at 3 a.m, which I apologize. I apologize, Cody. But for instance, Krzysztof, who's like I said, one of the founding members and one of the guitarists in the band. He got married during COVID to his now wife, Jess. And, they had planned on going out to Ontario. Jess is from Australia. They're both Polish, so they had family in Poland. Everyone's going to come in there. Obviously, COVID kind of, more or less fucked that up for everyone, right? It kind of ruined it and ruined their entire plan. But, we did a live stream, for all their family in Australia, out east, Poland. The band were all the groomsmen. I was asked by them to get a temporary 1-day license to marry them, to actually officiate the. Yeah, and Jess had some of her friends here as well as her bridesmaids and stuff. And it was a very, very small ceremony. It was a beautiful day. It was a gorgeous day, and we had a little ceremony and we got them married. And it's one of those kind of things where it's just the band was all there for that, and it was a great celebration and a great moment in Krzysztof and Jess's life. So we're happy to be a part of it. And that's just one small example and one thing that I think brought us together, because we did stick it out through the whole thing, right?
Yeah, no, I because again, some people during this time drifted apart, but others became a tighter unit as a result of this time. And it just sounds like considering everything that's going on with you guys, it sounds like you guys got a little tighter. And I'm sure Cody forgives you for the drunk calls. I'm certain you'd do the same for him.
Yeah. So Cody's not a big drinker, so I've probably been with him for a fair amount of times over the last couple of years where he has been tying one on. So I haven't had any late night calls yet, but I'm sure if or when the time comes, I will gladly take him,
Yeah,
and I will humor him if that day ever does come. So.
yeah. Well, hey, doing returning the favor, right? So it's all good. All right. So you mentioned, so you personally here. We'll go you personally a little bit, and then we'll wrap up, and we'll plug in the album. And I'm assuming you guys have some tour dates and stuff too.
We're working on that. Things are we like I said, we have some really exciting things coming up. We're looking at a lot of dates and a lot of busy schedule in 2023. So for 2022 right now, the biggest thing and the thing we're looking forward to is next weekend. Alberta's arguably their biggest metal festival. If not, it is. Loud as Hell is happening August long. So we're on the bill and we're on the Friday. So we're going to be gearing up for that this week, making sure we're all good and rehearsed for that. And going to be performing with a whole bunch of other fantastic metal acts and bands in front of a whole bunch of Southern Albertans and Western Canadians who have made the trip out to Drumheller. So that's what we're doing right now.
Drumheller is a good. So I guess you should do an extra bonus. Thank you for doing it this week before, because I know the rehearsal time can be a hectic time. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries.
But you personally, you mentioned this work. So okay? I'm gonna go like from this perspective, because it sounds to me like are you the youngest member of your band at this point, or is it or
It would be Tyler and I were the same age. Tyler's, if we want to bring it down to exact dates and stuff, Ty's younger than I am by a few months. So it's.
But close enough. Close enough. Yeah. So I asked this because you get, again, confluence of meeting the right people, right? So they've been doing their thing for 18 years. So where would you like come into the music thing? Because I got curious how you met them. Like did you start in a band yourself? Was this something like?
Well, I was in the scene with Tyler when we were like kids, like when we were teenagers and stuff. And he was in a band called End Silence, and I absolutely loved them. They were so cool. And I was in a band called Sam Sarah. And when
you guys.
Hey?
I've heard of you guys.
Oh, really? Yeah. It would have been years and years.
Yeah.
And years. Yeah. But anyway, our bands broke up for different reasons and around the same time. And I had at that moment had joined a 80s cover band because it was my first time ever joining a band, making some decent money and coin, and I was one of the only guys I guess they could find like were singing that kind of style of music.
Yeah.
So I was with a bunch of older guys like in their 40s, 50s and stuff, and learning kind of how to perform that way and learn how to do 3-hour sets. 3-hour shows, 4-hour shows, 45 to an hour set, a whole whack of stuff. So I did that, and then Ty and I started a project called Manic, which was kind of our way to just express our own creativity. Nothing too serious, just a lot of us expressing ourselves. And then around that time, I had left the cover band, and I was like, I want to go back to doing original music. And literally within a month of each other, I formed one band, and then I joined Osyron. So I've been in both bands for about 6-7 years now, going full steam ahead. And then Tyler joined Osyron like not long after me, because we were looking for a bassist. We were looking for a fantastic musician and a great guy. And I said, I know a guy. So that's why Ty's in the band. So.
No, well, yeah, it's a small world. At the end of the day, it really, really is a small world. So I'm just gonna ask this real quick. We're not gonna talk about them too much because it's about Osyron today. What's your other band, if you don't mind my asking?
The other band is In Vertigo. It's like a hard rock and roll band. So it's a different style. I mean, I still sing like myself. Like I don't try and change necessarily too much of my own style, but obviously I sing to fit that genre a little bit more, and it's more hard rock and roll, that kind of style. So yeah.
Well, no, you have it like when I was listening to your subs, like the first time I heard you, I was like, oh my gosh, 80s metal, like hard rock is what was my first impression of listening to your voice. And it was like, wow, this is cool. You're like Osyron, and Osyron sound kind of feels, because of you a little bit like a throwback, right? Because in a good way, right? Because it's like don't get me. I'm more of a European power metal guy at heart. Like I like give me some Epica, give me some Nightwish, give me some Taria. I'm there all the way. And then I'll go sometimes a little harder with Lamont Mars and a few other things like that. Like love that scene. But I also love like the old '80s metal scenes. I think, and the cool thing about metal, I think, is that metal's far and away the like metal and jazz are like the most experimental music genres. You guys will try anything, and it's like the
Yep.
coolest. It's the coolest thing. It's just like I'm not saying that you're quite in the same spectrum, but it's almost like two sides of the coin. Jazz is almost like an experimentation in one regard, and metal's the experimentation in another regard. But either way, it's like you guys are big music fans. You can hear it in the music, like completely. So
Yeah, yeah, and I think even more so on our new stuff. Like, I'm taking risks as a singer. The band's taking risk in their, like, every band member in their own regard, trying different things. So, off Kingsbane, I'd say that we definitely sounded a lot more throwback. My style and the band style at the time, and I think that through Foundations and now this next record coming out, you can really see an evolution where we definitely pay homage to a lot of that stuff we came from, because we have a lot of love and a lot of our influences in history are obviously throwing back to older styles and to more epic symphonic elements and stuff. But we're definitely carving our own path. So I think that there's going to be a really nice evolution on this album, where you're going to see us progress beyond necessarily one thing, and kind of really carve out our own genre and style. And we might be pigeonholed into certain things, but in my experience in this trade, and what I've understood, is that if you don't fully understand something, or if it doesn't quite, you don't know where to quite put your finger on it, you attribute it to things that you already do know, because that's the easiest thing to do as humans, right? We need to be able to relate to things quickly and understand quickly. So I think that over time, I think as this record comes out and you kind of see where we're going, hopefully we start carving out our own little window and our own little kind of cubby that's unique to ourselves, because I think that's where we're going and where we're heading.
well, I think that it's going to happen anyway for a couple different reasons. Like when you like, there's always a little bit of an expectation whenever an album or a particular genre, or in this case, your band, Osyron, there's a particular expectation of what your sound might be like, because you have an established track record, right? You guys do, so people kind of have a certain expectation of what you're going to be. The challenge, I think, with any kind of art is this: every story's been told, every song has been sang. It's how you would do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And being more comfortable in your own voice, right? And to find that and go, okay, this is how I would do it, right? I don't care what the hell else it sounds like. This is me. And it's coming and making peace with whatever that actually is, right? Whether it is an 80s more progressive, getting into symphonic metal band like you guys, or whether it's the 90s boy bands. I'm not saying that you're anywhere close to that, but hey, whatever you maybe listen. If you start doing Backstreet's Back, if you guys did a cover of that, that would be hilarious. But why not, right? But the point is, whatever you is, whatever that actually looks like, that's what counts. The
Mm-hmm.
rest, who cares?
Yeah.
You are who you are. This is who you are. If this is what you want to think of me as, bully for you. I see myself as this, and that's who I'm going to be when I go out and perform. Right?
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. 100%.
All right. So I want to ask two more questions, and then we're gonna wrap. We're gonna wrap this up so you can go off and get ready to do like your rehearsals. Good luck on the show this week, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I wish I could go. Becoming a freelancer means my money is this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this. Actually, real quick before we get to that last question, are you at that point where music's your? Actually, should ask this first. Is your goal to meet? If you haven't hit it yet, is your goal to keep music your living?
Yeah, I mean, in multiple ways, I guess. Any way you can. I mean, I teach music. I'm starting to get into songwriting. Well, I'm trying to kick in the door a bit into songwriting for other artists and producing other artists. So and also lending my voice to recordings and stuff. If people want me to sing on it, whether it's backgrounds or a featured a piece or whatever. And then yeah, slowly start to phase out more and more of daytime work and all that kind of stuff, and make it more and more my music, and in any facet, my only bread and butter. So I'm getting there every day, bit by bit. It's getting a lot closer, and yeah, it's getting there pretty soon.
That's good. No, congrats for first off, right? So now that said, so you kind of answered one of my questions for me already. And that's this. So then the band. So ultimately, then the goal with the band is to make it a sustainable like entity on its own. So you guys are always doing things for the band. That I think that's the goal, and everything else is nice kind of thing. Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as us in our personal lives, because to each their own, and everyone's going to have, like, I need to be busy. So, I mean, if we were, let's just say our band was down for 3 months, in limbo due to multiple things, regardless of what it is, I'm not going to be on my ass. Like, I'm always having something to do. So I think it's more or less if we are able to live how we need to live, and then still go tour the world, release our music, to whatever degree that is, and however much income that is, I don't know. But the goal would be to just rely on music, obviously. But if we can find ways to still pursue music full time, so be able to leave whenever we need to leave, and to record whenever we need to record, and etc. Whatever that looks like to each person is their own business and how they handle that. But I think that's kind of essentially what we're trying to do.
Okay. So last thing I want to I'll ask you personally. Then we'll talk with the album. Here is this: are you letting yourself enjoy the process? Because you mentioned the fact that you're working so much, and sometimes what happens is you get so caught up with
Mm.
everything you're doing, you don't sometimes take a step back and kind of go, "Oh, I'm doing all this really cool shit." Because it sounds like you're doing a lot of amazing things, and it's easy to let that pass you by. You know what I mean? And I'm just kind of wondering, you personally, because you like things going at a certain pace. I can tell that with you. Do you give yourself that moment to enjoy it, even if it's just for a moment?
More now than I ever did. I still think, talking how we were about looking at oneself internally, like with introspection, and kind of reflecting on who you are as a person. I think that was something that I learned over COVID, was that I haven't enjoyed a lot of the process. I've accomplished a lot of really cool things in my life so far in regards to music and what I want to do. Um, Both the band and personally, like, just in multiple facets. But I'm better now. I can tell you that the process to get this record done took a long time due to multiple things, like the pandemic, our personal lives, things falling into place really easily, and then things being really difficult and having to work around. So I went through phases personally on this album and gearing up for this, where it was easy and I was enjoying the process, as well as I had moments where I was struggling a lot, both mentally and physically, like with my voice, because of how much I sing, and I work with music on a weekly basis, day-to-day basis. So there was ups and downs for me personally, but the end result speaks for itself. I truly believe. I think that it's a true reflection of, I had someone listen to one of the songs. It was a family member, and it was a song that was very personal to me lyrically. Not to say that all the songs are, but this song was. And they said that they could hear the pain, they could hear the frustration, and if that's conveyed enough in recording, and if that's able to be transparent that way, regardless of the content, regardless of what it's about, because I truly believe in interpretation. But for me, the fact that they were able to get that from my performance meant that what I was doing was correct, or at least was what I was trying to do. So I think that, as a whole, as a band, I think that we really do represent, and really convey how we all felt in our own ways over these last 2.5 years. I really think that we nailed it, because it's melancholy, it's dark, it's heavy. There's a lot of beauty in it. There's a lot of melody, but there is a lot of aggression. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of pain. But when there are those small moments to celebrate, and when there are um, those kind of sweet, golden nuggets throughout the record that really reflect the hope and and the positivity. I think that shines just as brightly, even though the record is very moody and aggressive and more or less epic. It's a very epic sounding album. So I'm really excited about it.
It sounds honest. It sounds like a very honest like look at yourselves. Isn't that right? So I was kind of, even though I can't really talk about the songs or the album too much because you can't do that yet. I designed the questions obviously. It's like, okay, I have a bit of an idea what I'm going to expect. So, two final things, and this is the last question, and then we get to the plugs. Last question is this: what do you think is the biggest thing you've learned doing that album?
Personally, or as a band?
You can answer both ways, actually, on that one.
There's a lot of things from every record we've ever done as a band where we learn what to do better and what not to do and whatever. So a lot of it's recording process, a lot of it's the demoing process, a lot of it is our timeline, how much time we need to do this, how much time we need to do that. There's some things that we maybe overdid. I know for me, I did a lot of vocal sessions. So a lot of patience again to Cody, because Cody puts up with me a lot, I guess. But a lot of vocal sessions personally. I think there was just some things that we learned, again, what to do, what not to do, how to make the next record easier on us. Not to say that the process is ever easier, not to say that we shouldn't take the shortcuts, but just what we need to do to make sure it's an easier process. And then from a personal level, I think I learned a lot about myself as a singer and as a recording artist, and a writer, lyrically, and also what I need to do to make it easier on myself in the studio, because some days were easier than others because I was in a better mood or physically healthier, or my voice was cooperating, and there was other days where I was frustrated and things were not lining up due to multiple things. So I think we all learned, again, what to and what not to do, and that's how you get better at anything, right? The more you write, the more you work, the more you go through the process, it starts to become second nature, starts to become a little easier, and then you can understand what you need to do when you go through the tough times, and then how to expedite and kind of speed up the process when things are easy, when things are good.
I always look at it as every animal's a little different. Every album, every book, every project's different. What I just try to do is this is what I hopefully try to do is I try not to make the same mistakes twice. Right? That's it. That's it. Right?
Definition of insanity, right?
Yeah, well, I try sometimes.
No, but
I'm sure.
That's it, right? I know that's it's easier said than done. It's kind of not fair because we do make a lot of the same mistakes. It's not, but it is essentially the definition of insanity. It's like doing the same thing twice and expecting different results, right? So it's kind of, it really is. It's like you learn from it, right? It's the same thing as just being human. Is when you fuck up once, don't do it again. Because if you do it again, you're more or less going to get the same result.
When you hit my age, though, you kind of get to like a realization that there are some things you're not going to fix. So when you get to that realization of what those things are for you, my sincere hope for you is that you forgive yourself just a touch. It's okay that you're always going to be a little crazy that way. The flip side is it's part of what makes you you. So there's good and bad with that, right? So, all right, my friend, I think we have an interview here. What do you think?
It's been great. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it very much, Josh. It's been a great conversation, and hopefully people can watch this and enjoy our chat and get to listen to what Osyron has to offer.
So yeah, I was thinking about what to ask you to plug, because you're in an odd spot. You can't talk about the new album yet, which is like, do you want to talk about your previous release? Like you mentioned the show on the weekend. So what else?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to plug really here? And then how can people find you guys?
Yeah, I think in regards to the previous music, I think that our music stands for itself. I think that with this incarnation of the band, the two releases that we have, Kingsbane and Foundations, I think that if you want to get to know the band very well, obviously listen to Foundations. It's the direction we're going. If you want to delve back a little bit more, the remixed, remastered version of Kingsbane is a great representation of who we are as well, sonically. And then the three re-recorded, reimagined songs at the end of that remixed, remastered version are a great way to kind of see, again, who we are and how we sound, and you know, so I think those are great ways to kind of check it out and see where we're going with this next release. But yeah, Loud as Hell, we're on at Friday, the first opening night of the actual festival, and yeah, we're excited. We're going to be there at about we're going to be on at around 6:30, I think, somewhere around there. Could get the time wrong, but so if you're down there, if you're heading down there, if that's a thing that you are doing, for anyone who's watching or anyone who's listening, get down there for us. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to have the support, and obviously we hope that you enjoy the rest of the festival.
And the other question is, how can people find you guys? They want to get a hold of you.
Yeah, I mean, Osyron, Osyron, is not really anywhere else. It's a made-up name. So if you look us up on the internet, it's all us. You know, we have all of our socials there. We have all of our streaming. We have our website. You can find us anywhere from just a Google search. You know, we've got you can look up Osyron Band, Osyron Calgary, anything like that.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, and our website, which was designed, which is designed by Bobby, our one of our other guitarist, and one of the other original founding members. Again, like I said, this band, minus myself, because when it comes to technology, I suck, honest to God. But everyone in this band is able to contribute so many ways. So Bobby is a phenomenal computer nerd, I guess to say it in a very blunt way, and way that I can say it because I know him. He's an Oilers fan, and I hate him for that. But I love him, but I hate him for that.
No, I understand. I totally understand.
Yeah,
Playoffs.
Yeah, I'm a big Flames guy. I'm a big Flames guy. It was a little tense there in the old Osyron household for a bit. So, but it is what it is. But anyway, he designed that website. He put a lot of heart and soul into it, and knows what he's doing. So anyway, we have everything that you could possibly imagine, need, want. If you want to delve into our story and delve into our music, so just a quick search, and we're all there for everyone.
All right, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is Osyron. I want to thank Reed for coming on the show and putting up with me for nearly an hour. And for everybody watching, everybody listening, if you want to support this podcast, one of the ways to do it is I do a little advertising business. If you have a project, if you want to promote yourselves, I will create a bunch of micro ads for you. The website for that is right here. You can see some of the stuff I've already done and will be doing. So definitely check that out. And this is not my only podcast today. Later on this afternoon, JD Estrada is going to come out and make up for the time yesterday missed. So I want to thank Osyron for coming on to the show. And for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys later this afternoon.